All right, welcome to another episode of Key Biscayne Stories, where neighbors meet neighbors. Today we're talking to Mark Freed. He's running for village council. So we're going to get to know him and a little bit of his background. He's been in the village for 72 years and a half, right?
That's correct.
So that's before the village was incorporated. How many times over, you said?
Close to 3 times.
That's incredible. And so the idea of this show is to give our neighbors an opportunity to get to meet you. So we have a set of questions that we're asking all our candidates, so we're just going to run through them. So welcome on the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. It's interesting what you said is let the neighbors meet me. When I was growing up in the 50s, there wasn't a neighbor who didn't know everyone on the Key. You couldn't get away with anything. If you did something wrong, your parents knew by the time you got home.
So we have a couple of questions. Would you like to start?
What's the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
It was call me. I was walking out of the bar at the Key Biscayne Yacht Club in January 1980, and Monano Gutierrez, who was a backdoor neighbor, he came up, put his arm around me, and he said, "I hear you're an attorney now. Give me a call if I can do something for you." And about 2.5 months later, I quit my first job as a lawyer. I called Monano, and he said, "Come in on Tuesday, April 1st. I went in there, and he gave me a case, and that began my law firm. And I'm proud to say that 44 years later, it's strong, and my son, Matt, is managing our employment-based immigration practice.
Here in the village?
Oh, my practice?
Yes.
Practice is on Brickell.
Okay, cool.
I always wanted my office off the Key because I was afraid I could not draw the line between fun and work. And I wanted to leave work on the other side of the bridge.
So tell us something about yourself that most people don't know.
Well, one good thing is I met my wife. She called me. She just called. I got a call, and Gail asked for Mark Freed. So I thought it was a cold call or a sales call. I was ready to hang up. And a good friend of mine from high school and college who worked with Gail gave Gail my phone number. And we went out for a blind date, and that was a Thursday night, preseason football, and I was thinking, blind date, football game. Maybe and I went on the blind date. It was a good date.
Good choice. Good choice.
Oh, Gail is, so where are we, 40 years later?
Was your first date here in the Key?
No, we went into town and saw Billy Marcus play jazz at the Travelers Lounge. He was on 36th Street. It's gone, long gone.
All right.
What's the most important things in your life today?
Oh, family and friends, without a doubt. Yeah, our family is growing. We've got Alice, a granddaughter who lives around the street at Marazul with Matt and Andrea. I have another granddaughter, Serena, who lives in Boulder. And Matt and Andrea will bring our third granddaughter, hopefully within the next 10 days.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
So that'll be the 4th generation on the Key.
Keeps going. Keeps going. So in total, I'm sorry, you say you had how many grandchildren?
2.
Two. Okay.
And how did you end up in the Key?
Well, my parents moved here in 1951. And if they moved here in July or earlier, I was conceived here. And so when I ended up here, was 2 days old, my parents brought me from the hospital to our home on Allendale Road. But the bigger question is, how did I stay on the Key? Because growing up, we had 90 to 100 people in our 3 classes going through Key Biscayne Elementary through Gables as far as Key Biscayne residents and friends. And I don't know if there are 3 of my classmates who remained on Key Biscayne. And it's a blessing and the 2 that I grew up with, I'm still friends with. And we fish a few times a month, see each other quite often, talk to each other weekly or better. So its big thing was staying here.
So when you first arrived, how did the village look like?
Well, I don't remember. I was 2 days old.
Oh, I mean,
I always ask people, it's fun, because I ask people who are in their 50s, 60s, and came here as a professional, and I ask them, what was your first impression of coming out to Key Biscayne? You cross through the toll gate. You get a different aroma in the air because the sea is there. So that's always another sense that you can pick up. Then you go over this amazing bridge and you see the bay. Then you go over another bridge and you see the ocean in the bay. You drive for almost 3 miles through woods, which are Crandon Park, and you come to this village. They go, it's pretty spectacular. And I didn't experience that. It was just, this is home.
What about an earliest memory?
One early memory, and it could have been, I don't know if I was 5 or 6. My parents took my brother, sister, and I to the beach club for evening cookout. So he had a little hibachi grill he put on the beach. And the teenagers on the Key modified a car. They took the body off of a car. It was the frame and motor and drivetrain. They put a plywood seat on it, and they drove it from the bridge to the lighthouse. And when they went by the beach club, there was a guy skiing behind the car. So the car had 2 wheels in the water, and the guy was off to the, with his rope hanging out to the left of the car as it was going south. That was a heck of a memory. So that you can't do anymore out here.
Yeah. I wish we had a picture of that so we could see that, but
Another early memory.
Yes.
My dad took us on my brother and I on a car ride. It was probably a 1954 Buick, and he went to where Kentucky Fried Chicken used to be, the Greasy Building.
I remember that when I first heard.
This is way back, and he went through a dirt road, and there was a pond with an alligator in it.
Yeah, no pond.
This would have been
for me
in the, I get 57, 58, 56. I don't remember, but I do have a memory of him driving back there.
Wow. Like I tell people, my earliest memory is that the Kentucky Fried Chicken. There used to be a lot next to it. People used to play soccer, but that's it. But no pond with alligator in it, I'll tell you that.
What inspired you to run for office?
The tragedy of Megan's death. I had considered for running for office for many years. In 99, I picked up a packet and decided not to. And I was wondering, a year before Megan died, which was February 14th, on Valentine's Day, I had attended some meetings, one at the Rotary Club where the chief of police spoke about current topics, and the only topic that anyone really wanted to talk about was e-bikes. And then next month, the Key Biscayne Bar Association had a meeting, and it was current topics on Key Biscayne. The manager was there, I think, the former mayor, a council member, and one other party. And the topics were 99% of the conversation, e-bikes. And everyone had an e-bike story. So I wrote a letter and published it to the community. I believe I sent it to the mayor and the council members. And it was about the fact that the police and the council had no clue what to do about e-bikes. They couldn't make a decision. And I wrote a scenario of someone getting killed. And the end of the story was, is this what it's going to take for the village to act? And the day after Megan was killed, the mayor called for a special meeting, and I republished the letter. Well, unfortunately, that's what it took. So I looked at it, is there an alternative to the way the government is working, the way the village council is working, that would serve the community better? Could we meet? I just saw this the other day when I was looking at the budget. At the beginning of the Key Biscayne budget, this is a village SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities.
If you want to show us briefly, bring it up to you.
This is in our budget. And one of the strengths is quality of life. And then number 3, actual sense of safety. On the village's mission is safe, thriving, vibrant island paradise, unique ambience. And one of their goals, straight 5, the first one is a safe and secure village. And then in the steer right goals, efficient and effective government services. So I thought, well, to get efficient, effective government services, you need to start at the top, and that's the council. So how can the council be more efficient? So I was thinking, are there alternatives that I have the ability to bring to the council? And I think there are. I've looked for alternatives in the past for organizations on Key Biscayne. I presented the alternatives to friends, shared them with colleagues, and I've worked to basically reverse two major organizations' directions that the leadership was going. That's the inspiration. I think that the council could be more efficient in the time it takes to decide and making certain decisions. I believe that the indecision on e-bikes was somewhat a fear of stepping on toes. What's going to be the public reaction to this? Is it going to be hurtful? Is it going to be critical? Will they criticized? And in the past, I put myself in a position where I was open for criticism from the village or from the organization. And my belief was, I wanted to see, do the majority of the members think the way I think? In each case, I read that correctly, and the majority voted and turned organizations around that I saw in bad direction.
Next question is, what are the most important issues you think the village is facing? What would you like to do about them? Or what are the things you want to focus on?
I think there are several issues, but they're short-term issues, daily issues, and long-term issues. In speaking to friends and residents here, it seems like the daily issue is the manners of our fellow neighbors and residents. People always complain about rudeness on Key Biscayne and how it's different than it used to be. But I thought, how can we fix that? One is a smile. One is to be pleasant to someone, notwithstanding their disposition. It might change them and turn them around. But that seems to be a constant subject that's been going on for years as we have transition on Key Biscayne. And it may be normal, but that's the daily. And then the long-term, there's several long-term. Safety is always an issue. I listened to the police chief give his report to the council on the budget and why he needs more money and more officers. And it's for safety, resiliency, stormwater resiliency, the rising of the water. I mean, it's much better today than it was in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
What do you mean? Less than
Well, in the 50s and 60s, when it rained hard here, the water was on the ground for 4 or 5 days.
Oh.
Around the school, in a good rain, there were 2 to 5 cars that had stalled, and they'd wait for a new battery to get their points dried or whatever, that they could get it started again. But the puddles were there for a long time. The tadpoles grew up enough to lose their tail and become frogs. That doesn't happen anymore. If you have a good low tide, the water is gone at least by the second low tide. So the infrastructure is better. There are definitely a lot of issues that need to be hit. I'll be a council person. I'm not a manager. I'm not an engineer. So I'm going to look at what can I do to influence the efficiency of the council. How can we make wise and quicker decisions that will benefit, and we don't look back on and think that was a bad decision?
And what are some things that you think the Key is doing right?
Notwithstanding my previous criticism, I think the village is doing a lot right. Compared to pre-incorporation, when we were dependent on Dade County and what our municipal services millage tax to the county got us, it was close to nothing. We have a bargain as far as millage rate. So I think they're definitely a lot right. One of the things are the services that they provide to any age on the island, whether a young kid or a senior. There's something to use. The opportunities that the village has provided to its residents are wonderful. The fact that we have an area that we can bike to. I came here by bicycle. You can walk. You can get around. If you want to freebie, you can freebie or drive. it makes it pretty nice that we've got this little area and it looks nice. So the village is doing a lot of things right. Is there always room for improvement? Yeah. Last night the Hurricanes played a great second half, but Coach Cristobal said we still want to improve.
So one of the aspects of running and eventually ending up in council is dealing with people with a lot of ideas, good, some bad, depending on where they're coming from. How would you work with those that oppose your ideas?
Well, I'm going to have to become political, which I haven't been good at in the past. But part of it is to listen, because the more voices you hear, the better informed one gets. The more facts one has, more to process, evaluate, and come to a decision. So I will listen. If I do not agree, I will share my position, see if I can sway that individual if we're both bullheaded and we don't meet. If I'm on the council and I have a vote, I'll vote the way I believe is in the best interest of the village.
And if you're elected, by the time you finish your term, what would be something you want to be remembered of?
I'm hoping that I was able to change the manner in which a council meeting is conducted, and that somehow it can end by 10 o'clock at night. That's I would love to be remembered for that and get everything done that we need to get done. It might be that there are other meetings that can be had, whether council meetings or it under the sunshine law, to get oneself prepared for the council meeting so that it goes quicker. I don't know, what else, that I survived 4 years. That's another thing. That may be tough, but...
Well, it's definitely going to be a lot of work. So I like to thank all the individuals who are running for office or who are in office for all the work that they do, because it's a lot of work. And I like to say the work that is seen and the work that is not seen, because there's probably a lot of times that you will be away from your family, a lot of times reading stuff or taking away from your personal life to dedicate so that you can make a good decision in your next council meeting. So thank you for taking the leap.
Well, one of my goals here, and a promise to myself, is this has got to be fun. I'm going to make it fun.
I like that. And you know what? It can definitely be fun.
And be responsible. Yeah.
Of course. We can have fun and be responsible and professional all at the same time. But what do you believe makes you stand out from other candidates?
I think all of the candidates, I know them all. I just met Charles Collins for the first time this past week. I believe all the candidates are qualified. I just have seen candidates or council members come in over the last 25 years and what they do and don't do. And I know that I can be a voice that is different. If I see something or constituents bring up an issue and it's not popular, I'm able to bring it to the table. Say I've had experience doing that. I have a history of doing that. I did it with the Key Biscayne Beach Club. It had board members who had been on for 12 years, 8 years, 10 years, and it was putting the beach club in a precarious financial situation. After serving a year, I determined that the board wasn't responsible to the members in the organization, and I campaigned to change the board. We got the majority of the board, all but one, were not reelected, and it brought people on who could execute a plan and bring in an organization from insolvency to reserves in the bank and a better membership experience. And there was a lot of criticism. People didn't like the fact that I called out wonderful neighbors on Key Biscayne, people I grew up with. But I mentioned to them, and I told Mike, I said, when I come into a board meeting, my hat says director. It doesn't say I like Mike. And I would talk to Mike O'Brien. Do you remember Mike, the manager at the beach club?
I didn't really frequent a lot of that.
My mother was his Cub Scout den mother. And an early memory is my mother took the den to see a replica of the Mayflower on Watson Island, and all the Cubbies. And I wasn't old enough to be a Cub Scout, but my mother drove the den there. She took me with her, and there was a photo of the den and my mother on the deck of the Mayflower. And Mike, at, I don't know, 12 years old or 10 years old, was probably 5'11" at the time, and all the Cubbies and my mother were 5 feet and under. So I remember Mike, and I'd talk to Mike about that and say, Mike, love you, but what are we doing here as far as management? And I talked to the directors and mentioned to them that their decisions aren't helping the club. So it was at some personal risk, and we're in a better place now.
After a long, stressful day, what do you do to relax?
The best right now is to load up a backpack with a book, a towel, my dive mask, and a good shot of Zacapa rum, ride the bike to the beach club, go for a half-mile swim, pet the nurse sharks where I know where they are, maybe see a turtle, maybe see a lobster, a starfish, swim down to Casa del Mar, swim back, then read a little and sip on the rum as the clouds in the east are getting color from the setting sun. That's a good day of relaxation and a wonderful way to end the day. And it's one of the beauties of Key Biscayne. I mean, we are here. I mean, what brought me here or what kept me here? Friends, family, community, geography, geology. The fact that we've got this beach, and off the beach the grasses are growing and we're getting fresh air off the ocean. So it's spectacular. I had a friend and client I've had for 20 years. He ran in the triathlon this morning at the Crandon Park. So I went over there to support him. And after he was finished, he said, "My gosh, this key is spectacular. You live in paradise." And I said, "Nelson, when you moved here, I told you, buy on the key." I said, "Maybe I'll do that."
Should have all gone on that advice. Buy on the key early. Hey, what is your go-to meal for a last-minute guest for dinner?
What's Gail cooking? Gail is a great cook, and she cooks in pretty good quantities. So if someone comes by, there's always enough for more. We've always got food for another.
What is your favorite dish that she makes?
Well, I'd say there are a lot of them, but one of her best is eggplant parmesan. And she makes her own sauce from scratch, and she uses organic ingredients. So if I go to a restaurant, a pretty fine Italian restaurant, and I order eggplant parmesan, I'm setting myself up to be disappointed because I go, they haven't met Gail's standard yet.
What do you love most about the key?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think I've said it already.
Yeah.
The fact that this is a spot on the earth that is just so neat. And, it brings a story back to me. I have a colleague from work, and he was teaching accounting at Miami-Dade College, and he asked me to come speak to his class. And this would probably be 1983. I went in the class. There were people sleeping on their desks. It was an early morning class. And I told a story, and my story was, why is education important? Because after my first 2 years of college, I quit for a year. And I wasn't certain what I was doing. I worked as a diver at Seaquarium, and I worked with other divers and trainers, who were raising families. And I think I was making $1.83 an hour. And as I'm doing this, and I'm thinking, how do they support a family? They've got a wife and a kid. And I go, education's going to be important. So after traveling, I went back to school at Florida State and finished, and I was able to go to UM Law School. So the education did serve me well. But when I was finished talking about education and so forth at class, one of the students asked a question, well, where's the neatest place you've ever been? And I thought about it. I've been to Mexico, I've been to Europe, I've been to Canada, St. Lawrence River, And I said, the mangroves of Key Biscayne, the mangroves. It's my favorite place. It's where I grew up.
Which one? Which mangrove?
Mangroves by the North Point, by the yacht club.
Okay.
So we grew up water skiing, hanging out, learning how to drink beer, things like that. It was great.
I think I had Mr. B on the show, and he used to go into those mangroves by St. Agnes as well and build stuff in there. Yeah. So apparently it was a popular spot.
It was.
Okay.
It was.
What is the perfect weekend for you in the Key?
Perfect weekend would be a good Friday night with friends, meal, drinks, or with family and friends. In the morning, getting a good exercise in, doing some boating, being with friends, then being with family, seeing a good football game, taking the dog for a walk with Gail, having my granddaughter Alice come by and say, hey, Grandpa, let's go swimming, like she did yesterday. That makes for a good weekend, and being pretty tired on Sunday evening for a good sleep and hopefully wake up refreshed Monday.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
There is. I'm very happy and grateful that I'm still on Key Biscayne 72 years after I was born here. I'm doing that. Part of the reason I've learned to do service for the community is through my father. Mort Fried set a great example. He was involved in the incorporation effort. He was on the council for 3 terms. He did a lot. He was involved in having the village purchase the village green. So I learned service through my dad. Now I'm got 4 generations of Frieds on the Key. And I want to serve to make this place better for the community. If I can do it for the community, then I'm doing it for my family.
It's awesome to have somebody with so much Key Biscayne experience. You've seen it all. So
yeah.
Mark, I want to thank you for coming on the show, and it's been great to get to know you. If I haven't said it, thank you for taking this step and run for office. And yeah, I'm glad we got to know you.
You're welcome. It will be my pleasure. I say it's going to be fun.